What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Sports Podcast, hosted by Joey Maylari. So today is the start of the ACC Championship for basketball. BC will be kicking it off today against the Louisville Cardinals in Greensboro, North Carolina. BC will be playing at 4:30 p.m. on the ACC Network. BC's played Louisville once this year. They beat them 75-65 on January 25th at Conti Forum. BC won this game, ended up having a big second half. BC was down 35-29 at halftime, but outscored the Cardinals 46-30 in the second half, winning the game 75-65 overall. BC finds themselves without their best player, Quinten Post, who actually was really good in that game. He had 22 points, 6 of 6 from the free throw line, 2 of 5 from 3, 7 of 13 from the floor with 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. That's what he did against Louisville, and Louisville played them in January. But he suffered an ankle injury on senior day against Georgia Tech, was out within the first minute or two of the game. Will be missing today's game. While BC warmed up, he was actually in sweat, so from the get-go, it looked like he wasn't going to make it, but he was questionable, a game-time decision up until about a few minutes ago now. It's 4:27 p.m., so the game is just about to begin in 3 minutes. I'm giving you guys a quick preview before we start. The game probably started around 4:35, 4:40, so I wanted to record something just before we get going. Other news, Daniel Jones did sign with the New York Giants a 4-year deal, $160 million, and then Saquon Barkley was franchise tag, but I'll record an episode on that at some point later on tonight. So BC will be without Quinten Post. On the year, BC's been playing very well, and Quinten Post is playing, but without Quinten Post, it's different. BC is a different team without Quinten Post. Even though overall they're 7-7 when Quinten Post plays, they're 8-9 when he doesn't play, and he's a big miss for that BC team in offense and defense. As I said, he played very well versus Louisville in January, so BC will be missing him. I'd expect Prince Aligbe, Devin McLaughlin, along with TJ Bickerstaff to play more of that 4 versus 5 in a small ball lineup. BC probably will be running with a small ball lineup for a good amount of that game today, I'd imagine, considering Quinten Post is out. And Quinten Post, big player, was a big player all season with BC. Actually was most improved player in the conference this past year. 7-footer, senior forward for BC. Transferred over from Mississippi State, originally from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Had a very good year for BC, averaging 15.2 points per game and 5.7 rebounds, both of those being team leads for the BC Eagles this year. So they will be missing him, obviously. He's a big loss to their lineup offensively and defensively. So we'll see who steps up at BC. Someone's going to have to step up today. Maybe it's TJ Bickerstaff. He's going to probably have to have a big game. Bickerstaff will have to have a big game. He's coming off a game that he played very well against Georgia Tech at 15 points and 27 minutes of action, shooting 7 of 10 from the floor, 1 of 1 from the free throw line with 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks. I think he has to step up for BC to have a big game today. Micaiah Langford had a pretty good game when they last played Louisville. That was on January 25th, as I said. He had 21 points, shooting 8 of 14 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3, 4 of 4 from the free throw line with 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, and a steal. BC would need everything they can get out of him. If BC were to lose today, that would be his last game as a BC Eagle, unless BC plays in the NIT, which I'd imagine is a likelihood as of now, but BC probably has to win another game or two to play in the NIT. BC lost their last game of the year against Georgia Tech. If they were to have won that game on senior day, they would have finished 10-10 in the conference and finished the year overall 16-15, so a game over 500. Unfortunately, they lose that game, dropping to 15-16 overall in the year and 9-11 in the conference. As for Louisville, I'm going to break down some players on their team and who to look out for. Louisville basketball has been struggling all year long, and that's one thing BC has to take advantage of. Louisville really doesn't have that strong of a team. This year they've been struggling the entire season. Louisville never really found their footing. They're coming into the ACC tournament, losing 4 games in a row. They're 2-18 in ACC play, a 4-27 overall on the year, with an 0-3 record in neutral sites. So Louisville's had a bad year all season, but that doesn't mean they can't go on a run in the ACC tournament. BC basketball last year, even though they were underdogs, won 2 games in the ACC tournament and even almost won a 3rd game, losing to Miami at the buzzer. So we'll see what happens for BC basketball today. Louisville, as I said, just all it takes is to win 1 game. All it takes is to win 1 game, then you can make a run. And I'm not saying BC is going to lose this game to Louisville, but BC can't take Louisville for granted. You cannot take Louisville for granted. One thing I noticed in that game when BC played Louisville is even though they were a 2-win team in the ACC, or probably a 1-win team at that point in the ACC, and only had, I believe, 2 wins on the year at that point, they played very hard. Actually, they had no wins in the ACC at that point. So their first 2 wins in the ACC came after BC last played them in January, and those were 2 of their 4 wins on the season. So if you look at their record overall, you're going to say it's a bad team, which, yeah, they're not having a great season. They're struggling, right? But for a team that had a very bad record, had 0 conference wins at that point, and only had 2 wins heading into that game in January, on January 25th against BC at Conte Forum, they played very hard. They hustled. That's one thing they did well. They hustled and they played very hard. And that's one thing that's hard as a coach, is to find motivation for your plays. It's hard for a player to find motivation and to actually fight and give it your all every single possession when you only have 2 wins on the year and you're 0-9 in the ACC. When you're 2-18 on the year and 0-9 in ACC play, it is hard to find motivation. It is hard to find the motivation. But they had 4 guys in double-digit scoring that day. Sidney Curry was 5 of 6 from the floor in 32 minutes of action with 10 points and 4 rebounds. In 39 minutes of action, Mike James had 6 of 13 shooting from the floor, 3 of 5 from 3, and also added 15 points with 2 steals and a block and 3 assists. He's one guy to look out for today for BC. He's a guy that can do things on both ends of the floor. Obviously played well against BC last time they played them with 2 steals and a block, and also hit 3 threes. Jalen Withers, another player, had 30 minutes of action in that game against BC in January, with 6 of 12 from the floor with 7 rebounds, adding in an assist and 16 points. And then lastly, L. Ellis, in 32 minutes of action, led them in scoring for Louisville in that game in January, had 17 points off 3 of 5 shooting from 3, 7-11 shooting from the floor, adding in 5 assists and a block for the Louisville Cardinals. So we'll see what happens in the game today. Their starting lineup is Jalen Withers, J.J. Traynor, Braden Huntley-Hatfield, L. Ellis, and then also Mike James. Louisville's starting lineup could give BC some trouble with their height. Jalen Withers is 6'9", a redshirt junior forward. Then they also have a 6'8" junior forward in J.J. Traynor. He will be starting for them today. And then Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, he's a 6'10" sophomore forward. And then another starter in that lineup is Mike James. He's a 6'5" redshirt freshman guard, along with L. Ellis, who's 6'3". So the smallest guy in the lineup is 6'3". So they have a 6'3", a 6'5", guard duo there, and then after that they have a 6'10" forward, a 6'8" forward, along with a 6'9" forward. So BC might have some trouble today without Quinten Post in height. They might have a little bit of trouble, considering Quinten Post is a 7', and BC's used him on the offensive end and defensive end all season. He's been a great player for them. As I said, BC has 8-9 in games he does not play. So we'll see how BC plays against Louisville today. L. Ellis on the year, that's their best player on Louisville, 17.7 points per game, averaging 4.4 assists, 2.7 rebounds, shooting 32% from the three-point line and 81% from the free throw line overall. Mike James, their second leading scorer, 10.1 points per game, adding in 3.3 rebounds, 1.1 assists, along with 78% free throw shooting and 35% shooting from 3. Jalen Withers, their best shooter from 3 overall, 42.1% on the year, averaging 9 points per game off that 42.1% shooting from 3, 5.3 rebounds, and 25.2 minutes of action per game. J.J. Traynor, another starter in that lineup, averaging 6.7 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, shooting 72% from the free throw line and 31.9% from 3. And then Brandon Huntley-Hatfield is shooting 27.8% from the three-point line, averaging 6.4 points per game, 5.3 rebounds to go along with 46% shooting from the floor. So they don't really have too many great shooters. That's one way BC could beat them, is just if BC had a hot day shooting. But BC's gone a cold stretch of shooting. And that's what happened last time BC played Louisville. BC was really cold in the first half shooting, and that helped Louisville to get out to a lead in the first half. BC in the first half shot 1 of 11 from 3, 9% from the three-point line in the first half last time BC played Louisville. But then in the second half, BC shot 7 of 11 from the three-point line, 63%. Louisville actually shot pretty hot all game from 3. They were 9 of 18 overall last time BC played them, shooting 50% from three-point line, 53% from the floor overall. They were 5 of 9 in the first half, Louisville, from 3, shooting 56% just about. And then the second half from 3, they were 4 of 9, shooting 44.4% from 3. Two guys that got hot, L. Ellis and then Mike James, both of them going 3 of 5 from 3 apiece in that game versus BC. So BC obviously has work cut out for them today without Quinten Post. DeMont Langford, who's missed the last couple games with an illness, he will be playing today for BC. He will be available. So we'll see what happens for the BC Eagles today. Hopefully they get a win. It's just about game time now, so I obviously have to go watch. But hopefully BC gets a win today. Without Quinten Post, it won't be easy, though. Without Quinten Post, it will not be easy. But their starting lineup is Makai Ashton Langford, Jaden Zachary. That's a starting backcourt. And then you have Prince Aligbe, Devin McLaughlin, and TJ Bickerstaff as the 3 bigs starting in that BC lineup. And as I mentioned already, Quinten Post will not dress for today's game with an ankle injury. So BC has their work cut out for them, but I think they still get a win today. I think this game will be closer than it should be. Concerning Quinten Post isn't playing in Louisville, at the end of the day, when you get to the playoffs and get to the ACC tournament, just like in any sport, once you get to the playoffs, records don't matter. You can be 2-18 in the ACC and still make a run. BC last year made a run in the ACC tournament, won a couple games. We only had about 4 or 5 ACC wins in the regular season last year. BC last year in the regular season had 6 ACC wins. They were 6-14 in the ACC and with 13-20 overall, but actually made it to the ACC quarterfinals. They beat Pittsburgh in the first round in Brooklyn, beat Wake Forest the following day, 82-77 against Wake Forest. They beat Pittsburgh in the opening game, 66-46, and then lost to Miami on basically a buzzer beater on the Thursday quarterfinals game, 71-69, losing that game by just 2 points at the buzzer to a very good Miami team. So we'll see what happens at BC today. As I said, though, when you get to the playoffs, records don't matter anymore. They don't matter. And Louisville, for a team that didn't have a good season overall, they play very hard. They play hard for a team that really wasn't going anywhere all season. They were struggling. Louisville basketball was struggling. Like 4 wins are a program that's been one of the most storied programs in all college basketball over the last few years, and then we could win 4 ACC games. Obviously, that's not ideal, but you can still make a run in the ACC tournament since it's single elimination, and you can win a couple games and get a lot of momentum. We'll see what happens, but credit to Kenny Payne, the head coach of the Louisville Cardinals. Has 17 years of coaching experience, actually coached the New York Knicks as an assistant coach, after 15 years as a college assistant coach with the University of Oregon and the University of Kentucky. Was the associate head coach for the Kentucky Wildcats from 2014 to 2020 before becoming an assistant coach for the New York Knicks from 2020 to 2022 before finalizing a 6-year deal to become the head coach at the University of Kentucky, a program they actually also played for as well. So we'll see what happens in this game today. Credit to Kenny Payne, though. That Louisville team does play hard for a team that only has 4 wins overall in the year and 2 ACC wins. BC has their work cut out for them without Quinten Post. I still think they get the win today, but I think it will be closer than it should be. We'll see what happens. Anyways, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, I appreciate it and hope you guys have a good one. Thank you.